If you get into one of my cars, you get into it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press Retrospectives, Failed Award Contenders. We're here to talk about Ford v Ferrari, directed by James Mangold. Oh wait, no, that's the other movie. That's the other one. I'm your host, Diego Crespo.
That was the one that was actually nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, that's my co-host, Macaringo.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that was the movie that maybe James Mangold kind of poached the leads from Michael Mann, who was developing Ferrari for like a decade by that point.
But doesn't Ford v Ferrari have Michael Mann as like an executive producer on it? Like,
yeah, basically because he did so much work, like prep work on his Ferrari, which I think at one point was even like partially what Ford v Ferrari becomes.
Yeah.
Like he's basically kind of teed up that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But instead he finally got to make his Ferrari.
I think it's one of these things that has worked. I think it worked out better for him in a weird way. Like, I think getting Ford v Ferrari out of there kind of like it put up some sort of like, well, now here are some things to avoid because they've already been done, right? Like,
yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And you know what? It kind of sounds like I'm shitting on Ford v Ferrari and James Mangold. I really like that movie, and I really like Mangold as a filmmaker. So I have no beef there. I just think that's very interesting how that worked out.
Yeah.
Because both Jackman and Bale were like not just in talks, but they were signed up to be the leads of Mann's Ferrari at one point.
And this is also.
And now they're both in that one.
It's been in the works for like over a decade, right? Like, it's one of those.
Yeah.
Like the long gestation period of this movie, and it was there was kind of something where when Ford v Ferrari came out, it was kind of like, okay, well, it's definitely not going to happen now, right? Like, that was kind of the reaction.
Yeah.
Of just like, it's done. And then I think in a weird way, Ford v Ferrari getting nominated for Best Picture and making like $200 million kind of made people go like, actually, let's do another Ferrari movie. And then it comes out and wins no awards and bombs at the box office. But
yeah, his second bomb in a row.
Yeah, but he's smart because now he's doing Heat 2, right?
Yep.
That's the smart move. Like, now it's like, okay,
no, it is
2 bombs in a row, and now I get to go back to my quote unquote franchise. Which is a movie where like, everyone's dead by the end, or like it's. But hey, whatever. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for those that haven't read the book, I'm not going to spoil it, but the movie basically follows like 3 timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's covering all of Mann's fascination with like, here's a crime in the analog era, here's the transitional era, and here's the digital era.
Mm-hmm.
And you follow 3 different viewpoints, some returning characters, some new characters. And it is kind of like an insane pivot. It is him trying to do like The Godfather Part 2, but digital, like,
I mean, I'm down with that. Like, that sounds like the best pitch ever.
Yeah, no, it's a great read. I think it's gonna make a fucking fantastic movie. I'm very curious about what he like if he's gonna change anything or not, because there's like a lot in there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you're like, what's a Michael Mann book like? Because he puts so much detail into his scripts, and he knows like the ins and outs of these individuals' lives, even if they're not in the screenplay. Well, he puts it all in the book. So like, I don't like, it's like 10 pages in, and I'm like, oh yeah, I never knew this about Chris Chiherlihes, and I've seen Heat like 20 times.
He does kind of go on tangents a little bit, but in a good way. I can't judge a man for doing that.
No, he's 80 years old, and he's like not afraid of death. Let him do whatever he wants.
Well, they have the balls to call it Heat 2, though.
That's what I'm curious about, because if they're like Heat
to the grave.
Yeah. I was trying to think of something. I was like, I don't even know. Heat, because you can't do Heat Legacy. People would fucking riot.
Yeah.
You can't do like Heat Resurrection.
Heat Origins.
Although that might actually fit. That might fit the Chris arc in that book.
Mhm.
But like that wouldn't be a good title for the rest of it. Yeah, you'd have to come up with like the greatest subtitle in movie history.
Heats.
He's with the dollar sign at the end.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
but who
looking
knows? This
forward
isn't
to
the
it,
Heat
man.
2 podcast. Oh
What's-
yeah, no, I can't fucking wait.
Is Austin Butler in it? Right? Like that's like what everyone's.
Austin
hyped about.
Butler is at this time slotted to play Chris Shirley's, so the Val Kilmer character.
It is one of those like that's a great choice. Like
It's so fucking good. I never thought of that, and it's so good. That kid is so I say kid, he's older than us. That kid is so fucking good.
we're still
as an
kids,
actor.
right? We're still young. Time hasn't ravaged our bodies yet. But no, he's great. Like, especially after I've just seen Dune 2. He's so fucking good in it. I mean, and he's having a fucking blast with that performance. So, where he's like kind of doing the Elvis voice, but also kind of doing Skarsgård's voice, like to be like, see, we're related. Like, and then meanwhile you have fucking Dave Bautista there who just sounds like Dave Bautista. But I mean, I'm not complaining; it works. So
Yeah, I mean, because Batista is. You know what? I haven't seen Dune 2 at the time of this recording. That's just got me so fucking hyped because I'm so pro Batista, I'm so pro Butler, like, and they're in the same space together.
Oh yeah,
and I'm sure there's not that many scenes of them together because I know where those characters end up, but that is very exciting to me now.
Here's the I would say Batista probably has less than like 10 minutes of screen time, right? Like he's a very minor character, but it's all great. Like it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot of him just being like like it's what you want from Dave Bautista.
Oh, good.
And yeah, like it's Butler, and then who's the other guy that's popping right now from fucking Saltburn? Who it's like he's now in everything.
Well, there's everyone's favorite little weirdo, Barry Keoghan,
but he's
and
already
then
been
there's
around.
Jacob Elordi, the other Elvis.
Yeah. It's funny, the two Elvises, because like now he's Frankenstein's monster, right? Like he's got a few things coming up, and it is one of those things where you watch that movie Saltburn and you're like, I'll fucking watch whatever this guy's in.
I don't think it was like the best performance of the year or anything,
No.
but he was like really magnetic.
No, it's not the performance. Like, no offense to the guy, he's good in it, right? Like, but it's not like, wow, this is a transformative performance. It's just like he's got that movie star thing where you're just like, I want to see this guy in movies. Like, you're like, I like watching him on the screen. And in a weird way, I think Adam Driver has a similar quality to him.
I was gonna pivot that way too.
Yeah.
Yes, Adam Driver is absolutely. He had that, and he still has that.
Yeah,
and he picks very interesting roles like those other actors are doing now.
Yeah,
You know?
he's great. It's so. I want to fucking kick J.J. Abrams in the teeth sometimes because it's like he's the guy that you could build Star Wars around the guy, right? Like he's so good as Kylo Ren, and he's only getting better as an actor. And it's like, well, no, he fell down a hole.
His famous last words.
Who let that happen? Like,
basically Bob Iger, but we don't have time to unpack all that.
Yeah, fucker.
We could do a whole podcast on why I am getting really fascinated in watching bad movies, not to laugh at, just to like kind of do postmortems on, you know?
Yeah. Well, they all seem to have,
I
like,
do think there's something to that.
There's something about them all having like similar problems, right? Like that are just indicative of where the industry is at. I wouldn't say any of
that's what
those-
I'm really like getting into right now.
I
Like,
would
that's
say-
why I want to see Madam Web still.
Yeah, I'll wait to see Madam Web on when it's like streaming for nothing. But
Yeah.
But there is that thing about
Like we're gonna go back to Ferrari.
Oh, yeah,
but I just want to say I want to see Madam Web specifically because I want to see if in the 10 years since the Amazing Spider-Man 2, if they're still the same flaws or if there are entirely new flaws now.
I've heard takes on Madam Web which are essentially like that it's trying so desperately to be kind of like a schlock movie. Like it wants to be more like have fun with how ridiculous its existence is, and you can tell that someone came in and was like, no, this has to be a more conventional movie. That like it was prevented from being like it was essentially prevented from being a bad movie by being made into a worse movie. which is kind of fascinating when you think about it. But because how do you make Dakota Johnson boring, right?
I don't know, because she's got charisma.
Yeah, another one where it's just like, and like it's a problem where like the avenues for an actress like her are so specific that it's like, well, now you're Madam Web, right? Like,
Yeah, everyone's favorite Spider-Man character.
yeah, God, I mean, hindsight 2020, I guess. I guess when you sign up for Madam Web in like 2019, it makes more sense, right? Like it's just after Endgame, you know. But I mean,
And then after No Way Home was like, to audiences and to the box office, a fucking home run slam dunk in the same like venue. It's like, all right, we're cooking. A year later, wait. I don't know about this anymore.
They must have
2 years later, it's oh no.
They must have shit a fucking brick when they saw the box office returns on Morbius. Like,
Oh yeah,
because they were already too deep in the Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, right? Like you can't stop now. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
But everything's someone was smart enough to cancel the Silver Sable movie, which was one of the ones they were.
Well,
trying
that was gonna be Black Cat and Silver Sable, and that was gonna be Gina Prince Bythewood.
Yeah, and she dodged the fucking bullet, is what I'm saying. Like she probably would have.
Sure, but she's a good director.
She's a great director.
She's made nothing but good movies.
She's a great director. She would have made a better movie than most of these. She dodged the fucking bullet because that thing would have been so executively interferenced on, right? Like,
yeah,
it would have been a battle every day, and she would have lost some, and she would have won some, and the movie would have come out as a compromise thing, and then it would still bomb, right? And and the studio would probably be like, well, if she had just listened, it would have been a hit. And
yeah.
she did The Old Guard instead, which is a much better movie than anything in the superhero realm these days. Or The Woman King, which was also great.
Oh yeah, really good movie. I'm trying to pivot back. The Adam Driver pivot was pretty good. I don't really have one to go back from there. No, that's just. Yeah, I don't know why. This is a great movie. It was my favorite movie of last year. Is it the best movie of 2023? I don't know, but it's a Michael Mann movie, so obviously it would have had, like, heaven and earth would have had to have been moved for this not to be my favorite movie the year of its release.
Well,
that's where
that's where I'm kind of at with the movie. Where like I think it's a great movie. I'm not as in love with it as you are, but I think that's just because I've only watched it like twice at this point, right? And then Michael Mann has such a stacked filmography that to be like, it's a top 5 Michael Mann would be like being like it's one of the best movies ever made, and it's a little hard to.
Oh yeah,
put that
I do not think that, for the record.
Well, I mean, I love. I mean, Michael Mann. Like, there's definitely at least 5 Michael Mann movies that could make my top 100. Right? Like, he's made a lot of great movies, so that's what it's in contention with when it comes to trying to figure out where. And this is going to sound like a criticism, but it really isn't. Because I like I said, I love this movie, but what kind of threw me about Ferrari is that it's an unconventional biopic, right? It's by most people, but it's a more conventional Michael Mann movie, you know? And it feels like from Miami, the last 3 movies are Miami Vice, Public Enemies, and Black Hat, which are him being really unconventional, right? It's really him pushing the boundaries of essentially what he can get away with as a director. And then Ferrari feels almost like a return to form. Like it feels like it feels more in line with something, you know, maybe like The Insider or even like Last of the Mohicans, I would say. It's a more conventional story while still being an unconventional biopic. And I just wasn't expecting that, you know?
And like, I think I might have been a little disappointed almost that it was conventional if it wasn't so effective.
Yeah. It's one of those where like I kind of went in wanting, you know, it's that thing that happens sometimes where I had this with, just because it's a movie I love, I had this with The Master, where I went to see The Master, and I kind of wanted There Will Be Blood Part 2, right? And The Master isn't that. The Master's a masterpiece, but it's not There Will Be Blood Part 2. And I kind of went into Ferrari being like, I want Black Hat Part 2, because I'm so Black Hat pilled at this point.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not that, but it's still a great movie. So like, but it's still building for me in terms of like where I rank it among his other movies, right?
Yeah, I'm at the point where I can't put it above like the number 10 slot. Like the only things I have below it are Jericho Mile, The Keep, Public Enemies, and of course LA Takedown, his one actually bad movie, quote unquote. But I call Ferrari like it's the least shiny 5 stars of his 5-star run, but it's still 5 stars for me. You know, like I obviously loved it, and I think it's terrific.
And that got it to your best of the year, even with those qualifiers on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not
at the very least, it's my favorite. Yeah.
Okay. There's it doesn't have Kill a Harkin though from John Wick 4, so I can't give it number 1.
Oh yeah, but that's understandable.
That's
maybe, a valid choice.
That's maybe the best sequence in a movie of the century. So
well, that's Orson Welles if he was in John Wick.
I know, it would have been amazing. Goddamn! If only Orson had lived long enough for John Wick. Anyway.
I know. 100-year-old Orson Welles in John Wick 4.
If only Orson should have been the first immoral, just so we can keep putting him in movies that absolutely don't deserve his gravitas. Like he gets to be immortal, but he can't be in anything that is like an A picture. Like he has to be slumming it. So.
Here's my pitch in an alternate reality. Orson doesn't do just any Michael Mann movie. He only pops up in The Keep.
Oh my god, he should have voiced the fucking demon in it.
I was gonna say. Yeah. The plot of Ferrari is really simple. It takes place over the course of like 4 months in like a 4-mile radius for 2 hours, and it's about Ferrari trying to save his failing business. That's really it. And trying to balance his personal life and private life and business life. And those things, they cannot occupy the same space at the same point in time.
It's a real stretch for someone like Michael Mann, about a male protagonist who can compartmentalize the different facets of his life, but those walls are ultimately the thing that are holding him back. It's a real stretch.
Yeah. It's if you've seen one Michael Mann movie, you have seen all of them, but you've also seen none of them, and that's what I keep loving about him as a filmmaker.
No, it's like it's why we watch the movies. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very similar. It's a recurring theme, but it's a good one, right?
I mean, even his imagery gets very like. He's got these signifiers, not necessarily repetitious, but allegedly he does not go out of his way to shoot for them. It's just how he knows how to tell these stories. So from the scripting stage to the visual stage, it's like he's got one mode, but he's the best at it. So like when Ferrari's looking out over that track when they're trying to beat I forget the other Maserati's like time. Going around the track in their new car, they're like, we got to beat it now. We're gonna take it back right now. And so he's looking out over that stretch of concrete, and it's like the over the shoulder shot. I was like cheering in my seat at opening night. I was like, yeah, like there it is. But it's also like he's looking out at something that man made, surrounded by nature. And you still ultimately can't control the outcome. You know, you can only put things into motion that allow you to like chase after it. And it's just like, oh my God, it's all right there in that image still. This movie's also viscerally violent for like 5-minute bursts. And I was frankly not prepared for that. Mm-hmm. I did not know that was going to happen. I did not have any familiarity with this era of Enzo Ferrari's life. What were you familiar with?
That's something I know jack shit about cars. So like I basically went into this blind. So he could have made everything up that happened. Like that race might not even have been real, and I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I had kind of been tipped off that there was a violent car accident in the movie. So when I went into it, I kind of was like waiting for it almost. So because there's one early on, and I was like, well, that couldn't have been it. And then another one happened. I was like, that one was definitely it.
Yeah, so there's the
That
early
one.
one. I was like, whoa. Like, I felt the air get sucked out of the room. And then I remember seeing the trailers with the car crash in the trailers. I don't know what it was. Maybe the VFX wasn't done or they slowed it down for the trailer. It looked rough. In motion, didn't even clock that it was like even a fake car because it happened so fast. But like when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, here's the crash. It's pretty rough. And then it gets really rough. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I heard someone, when the car goes over that object on the street and you see it slowly crash into the tire and it like causes that eruption, someone behind me was like, oh shit. And that was very fun to experience everyone feel what that guy was saying.
Mm-hmm. Not to add to the canon of Macaringo knows incredibly fucked up things.
Okay.
There is. Do you know the 1955 Le Mans disaster?
I don't.
It's one of those. It's one of like the early. We caught a race car accident on camera type things. And it's basically like a car goes like cars were coming around a turn right near the stadium stands. The car just goes flying into the audience, and it was caught on camera like by two angles. One camera catches the car coming directly at it, and because it's on film, you can watch it. And like right before the car hits, the film just ends because it like all exploded, right? Because the car like directly hit it. And the other basically shows it hit the stands. There's no way, man essentially watched that and took that image of what that car did when it wrecked and used that for Ferrari. Like the imagery he's using of the car just like fucking cutting the people down. There's real footage like that out there. It's black and white footage, so it kind of it doesn't have the same, but it's one of those where it's one of those like horrific reminders of like, oh yeah, the human body is just a fucking sack of meat that can like our lives can be extinguished easily in an instant if fucking metal comes flying into it, right? And then we're just fucking ragdolled. Like, the Le Mans disaster in '55 killed 84 people.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, it was a really bad one. I think
God!
It might be the biggest of all time. Like, I think, and they still do Le Mans. This race, the one in this, when it happened, they never did the race again afterwards. So
yeah.
But yeah,
that's a little crazy.
Yeah, cars are insane. Don't go near them.
Yeah, I know. No, cars are fucking scary. That's what this movie ultimately like made me think about. The cars are fucking terrifying. And that so much of our like society, so much of our society in America revolves around them. Makes me angrier at America.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like, oh, we made a mistake. Like, we shouldn't have done everything around the car. Thanks, Robert Moses, you anti-Semitic fuck. I don't know if he's anti-Semitic, but he was definitely racist.
Then he probably was anti-Semitic too.
Well, he was also.
There seems to be overlap there.
I'm trying to remember if he was Jewish is the problem because he is. His name's Robert Moses, so I was like, was he Jewish? But he was definitely racist because he conveniently built all the roads to go around black neighborhoods, so all the highways went around them. And basically, you know what they call white flight from the cities? He basically engineered that. Like, it was a thing he made happen. So, fuck that guy.
Fucker.
And then every city in America followed his design, and then all our cities went bankrupt.
Well.
Thanks, Robert Moses. He's dead, though.
Yeah. Good riddance.
Are you a Los Angeles Dodgers fan?
Unfortunately.
You are? Well, you can thank Robert Moses for that because he drove the Dodgers out of Brooklyn. Because he didn't want them.
I'm not going to say thank you to that guy. Because Dodger Stadium like fucked up that community.
Yeah, but Dodger Stadium was like the first modern stadium. Like it changed how baseball was done. It for worse, arguably. Everything's good, Diego. Robert Moses was German Jewish, so he wasn't anti-Semitic unless he was just like crazy. But
I mean,
don't
that
like
can
that
happen.
guy.
They're self-hating like Mexicans, you know.
They're self-hating everythings.
Yeah. I'm just staying in my lane. That's all.
Yeah, self-hating Italians, and I think they all worked on this movie.
And House of Gucci.
Hey.
Yeah, these are your people, right? Adam Driver, he's one of your guys.
Yeah, is he? I actually don't know.
No, I don't know. Is he like honorary though? At least at this point.
I don't know if I can. I haven't talked. We haven't discussed this in any of the recent meetings with the fellow old Italians because they're all dying of arthritis. But
well, look, there were some dissidents of dissidents of this movie. Well, no. I'm going to mention specific people by name. I want to shit on them. No, I'm not. But there was just people that didn't really respond to this movie, and they were like, "Yeah, it's kind of boring. Doesn't really have a point by the end." And I'm like, I'll get to that because I think the reason it's such like a non-stereotypical biopic is that like it realizes, and this is why he wanted to tackle the material. Real life doesn't have like catharsis. You just kind of keep your walls up. You kind of you try to keep balancing everything, even though you're kind of full of shit, you know. And this movie is very much not pro Enzo Ferrari. It's just about him, you know. Yeah. Like, but I don't think his motivational speeches are very motivational.
Well, it's less about him being like like that. His speeches are ones we agree with. It's more about like how this guy got people to like follow him on to do this stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if a movie that like has a scene that definitely didn't need to be in it, where he sells a car to Hussein in it. I don't know if that. I don't know if he included that to make him look good, because that's a scene you really don't need in the movie, right? Like, but
you do if you're trying to make a point.
Yeah. But I would say I agree with you. There's not really catharsis, but I do think there is a sort of there's a I don't know what the word is. There's an optimism at the end of this movie, right? There is a certain hope that the walls can come down, even in someone who's built them up as much as Enzo has, right? Like, there's that. There is that. I mean, the last night, like, everyone shares that fucking clip of him being like, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time, right? Which is essentially his philosophy for everything, right? Like, that's part of the movie, is that he like, I put up walls on every. I mean, he straight up says that, right? Yeah. And then, not to jump to the end, but Penelope Cruz gives that whole speech, and it was like, you know, Dino, the son that died, was like, he had a lot of like your best qualities in you, right? And like he was like his point, like all that stuff. She gives that whole speech, and then the next scene is him at the cemetery with his other son, and he has that comment where he's like, "I wish you had known." This is the last line of the movie. "I wish you had known Dino. He would have taken you with him everywhere." Right? That's the last line of the movie. Coming from a guy whose whole thing is not taking his son everywhere. But right after Penelope Cruz overtly makes the connection that Dino was his son, that Enzo was in Dino and Dino was in Enzo, right? So yeah. I think it is something where that he's not. I think unlike a lot of other man protagonists who are ultimately doomed to be these closed off people, I think the ending of this is less that he's not as doomed. The walls can come down for Enzo, right? That he is not doomed to this, and it is not something that makes him better, I guess is what I'm saying. Like it's I think for the first time man has overtly been like because you know his protagonists are very like that, but it's like they're kind of closed off, and this is also what gives them their strength. Now, their strength is usually like being a cop or being a bank robber or something that is not admirable. But in this instance, it feels like for the first time he's like that. It's man being more like, I'm obsessed with these type of people. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree that that's how you should live your life, right? Like,
Yeah.
Although this does feel like this is one of those movies that does feel, not to be like the basic reading of it, but this does feel like one of those movies that is ultimately about making movies. You know, that that when Ferrari, Adam Driver, talks about making cars and shit, he's talking about making movies, you know. And it's just overtly that. So
do not bring that up to Michael Mann. I think someone tried to bring that up to him and he did not like that.
Of course he would deny it. Like, look, he made the movie. I watched it. So there's look. I get it. Like, I bet you a guy like Michael Mann at his age is sick of people being like, oh, he's secretly like his protagonists, right? No director wants to get saddled with that, right? It's annoying. But when he gives the whole speech about but what's he say to the son about the car?
He's talking about the engine?
Yeah, when a thing works better, usually it is more beautiful to the eye. That's his line.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that's not Michael Mann's philosophy on filmmaking.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, don't bring it up to him.
When am I going to be in the room with Michael Mann?
Well, look, I just was like 2 months ago, and it was awesome. So.
I would.
Although
dare...
I maybe have complained about this before, but I'm going to do it again because look, if you're going to like a Michael Mann retrospective screening, I feel like you're the type of nerd that knows like the do's and don'ts of talking to Michael Mann and asking about certain things, right?
That is why I avoid Q&As, because I know that there's always one fucker who doesn't know it. Like, and I don't want to be in the room when that fucker talks.
It was one of the last questions, and it was supposed to be the last question, and I think they pivoted and did one more, but like someone asked about like, will he go back to the keep? And everyone groaned because it's like, we've known he's never doing it. He's talked about it ad nauseum. But yeah, and like I was showing because it was for Collateral, and friends were there for the first time, seeing it for the first time, and they were like, "You don't want to ask him anything?" And I was just like, I listened to basically every available Michael Mann interview ever. Yeah. Like I just want to hear him talk. I have nothing to ask. I just need to listen to the master. You know, like
if I
sometimes you just gotta sit down and listen.
Here's the thing: if I had been there for that, did they do the Q&A after the movie? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I would have been like, they would have brought him out, been like, here's Michael Mann. Then I would have been like, there he is, and then I would have left. So, like, because I cannot do Q&As, man. Like,
I think it's Bill Ebery at Vulture. His stuff with Mann
guy, like,
his stuff is good, and when they take like audience Q&As like at BAM in New York, they have them email the questions and they solicit them that way. I think that's a way better method because that way you can filter out the bullshit.
Significantly better method.
Yeah, because if you find a good question, you can ask it that way, and if you don't have a good question, go with God.
Yeah, don't ask about, are you gonna re-edit fucking Black Hat again?
Yeah. To pivot to Black Hat for a little bit, because you mentioned that Ferrari, you think it's like the more optimistic ending for a man protagonist. I don't entirely agree. I think Black Hat is a very optimistic ending, but it is like they do have to forsake like all physical bonds apart from each other to be able to live like in solace, because the grid is like so broken by the end of that movie, and maybe in a reality. But I think that's a beautiful ending.
Black Cat is optimistic on the man scale, right? Like when it's literally like, it's like, okay, it's a very similar ending of a guy being like, he's fucked and has to go off on his own, but that time he's not alone. He found someone he loved, right? Like, they're still fucked. They still have to go off the grid for the rest of their lives. but you know, as long as they're together, it makes it worth it. Which, like, on the Michael Mann scale, it's like, yeah, that's the happy ending.
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like Ferrari is the more overt, like, his like it's very much like, okay, yeah, he's gonna his son is officially his son, right? He's not just the replacement son anymore. He's not just another part like everything else in his fucking life. But so like that, it felt a little more optimistic for Michael Mann's type stuff. It almost felt like it was one of those weird ones where, like, with that and like the ending of Killers of the Flower Moon, where it's like, do these guys know they're dying? Like, do they know?
I mean,
this is it? Like they both endings freaked me out in that kind of way.
I mean, Scorsese and Mann are people that I feel like, even though Scorsese has said he thinks he only has a couple more movies left in him, I do think they still operate the same. You know, I think Scorsese's just more sentimental, and Mann is like, I don't know, I want to do this, I'm going to do it. Yeah. I do think they ultimately fall in very similar places, though. And I love that you mentioned like Ferrari's like compartmentalizing of like his life, and like his like the life that he ultimately felt he deserved with not Laura, what's the other one? I forgot the names already. With Shailene Woodley, Lena, excuse me. Yeah. And like even the opening of the movie, after you get the CG Adam Driver on the racetrack, mixed in with real footage though.
Love this movie. It's a masterpiece. That is one of the most comical openings in recent memory.
It's a little silly. He looks like a gopher when he's driving.
It feels like those things where people like take The Sopranos and edit it into Mario Kart 8. Like it kind of has but besides that vibe. Yeah, I kind of love
that is
it.
A little.
I kind of love it. Like I'm not even here being like movie ruined. Like dang. But,
I love it too, funny. Because this is my defense of it. It is Mann extrapolating his approach to this story that actually happened and giving it his digital flourish, where it's like, okay, there's real stuff around this, but my approach, my telling of this factual event is mine, and so that's why Adam Driver's like, that's my excuse for that.
Okay, all right.
Buy it or don't. But the subsequent scene, the opening where it opens on like that valley of Modena, and then it like fades into their bodies in the blankets. I was like, oh, he's fucking cooking. Like this is the shit. Like immediately.
Also, just because I like tying what we do into the movies we've covered on the show. There's another the first. Let me see how long we got. First 26 minutes are all like one of those like in one day type things. After that, I couldn't tell if it bled into the next day. It kind of does, right? Like we kind of get the next day, but I couldn't tell if it was like if the first like 30 or so minutes of this movie were the first 2 days. Very similar to the opening of Babylon, but done significantly better, frankly. In terms we are now informed more deeply about the character and the type of story we're going by seeing what one day of their life looks like, and then kind of getting to the end of that day and being like, wow, that was all in one day. What a stressful life without the camera fucking zooming around everywhere.
A couple things. Totally agree. And like the opening is so like soft and quiet, and I don't remember the last time, if ever, a Michael Mann movie is opened that way, which is so perfect because it's like, this is his idyllic life. This is everything he wants as a family man, not a businessman, but a family man. And even just the way he like pushes the car out of the driveway without turning it on first, so he doesn't disturb it. It's perfect. That makes up for why Shailene Woodley is kind of the weak link of this movie, because she photographs very well, and that's kind of all that performance needs. I don't even think she's bad. I just think everyone else is kind of given all-timer shit here.
But I also don't. I think she's not given as much to her. I think she's good in this. Like, I don't know what people are talking about, honestly. I feel like we're all kind of annoyed with Shailene Woodley. Like she kind of had a weird arc to her career, right? She had like the Divergent stuff, and then wasn't she dating fucking what's his fuck for a little bit?
An anti-vaxxer, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, and then there was like we don't talk about politics, and then they got like engaged, but then they split up, right? So who really knows what was going on there?
Yeah. I mean,
like
she's a white woman in Hollywood. She's probably
Yeah.
just weird. It's fine. That's
Yeah.
not my concern.
Yeah. And it was just, but like I don't think I think she's getting a little too much shit for her performance, right?
You know what it is, I think, for at least a lot of people? I don't think she has the Italian accent down, which is like whatever. Fine. I don't give a shit about that.
But you know what? She doesn't like press it, right? Like she like it doesn't feel like she's like coming into the room and being like "Mamma Mia," like everyone else in this movie. Like she kind of does. She kind of seems to know her range with it and keeps it a little more simple, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Man would agree with you there. Man went to bat for her. Not that he was ever attacked, like what's up with Shailene Woodley, but he went out of his way to mention her performance. He called her like great, like on several occasions in the press run. So
I think she's just. I wonder if it's just because of how the character is, because she's supposed to kind of be separate from his life, so she's such a different energy than a lot of the other people in his life, right?
Yeah.
And so
yeah. I definitely don't agree with those criticisms. I just think she can't quite match everyone's level.
But like,
and especially
she's going up against
here you go.
insane Italians. Like she's a stable Italian, so she has no chance.
Yeah.
But I get the other what you're gonna say, and I'm gonna steal your thunder, is that the other female performance in this is Penelope Cruz giving like a career high, like peak. Like this is arguably the best performance of her career, right? Like
yeah, it's up there. She has obviously done a lot of great work with Pedro Almodovar. Yes. And so I don't want to discredit any of that stuff like Volver and recently Parallel Mothers or All About My Mother. Like she's just fucking, that's her heavyweight shit. Ferrari, if not better, it is at least of the same caliber. She is devastatingly good in this. Yeah, like, it is one of the best performances in a Michael Mann movie.
Yeah.
It is one of the best performances I've ever seen on the big screen.
It feels in part with the kind of shift that like his movies are kind of starting to get more like dominant female performances in them, right? Like it took him until he was 81 to do it, but at least he's doing it. So
yeah,
I mean, like especially like off of Black Hat, which felt like it was kind of like a real shift in that respect. But yeah, it's she's arguably the best part of the movie, even though I think Adam Driver is terrific. So
Adam Driver is incredible. And I feels like that's kind of a softball now, but no, he's really incredible in this one. I think this is one of his best performances.
It's insane. This isn't nominated for anything, is it? Like it's
nope.
Yeah, it is kind of insane.
Nothing. Yeah, there's I want to bring up the dissidents really quickly too, because someone tweeted out like Adam Driver's got to stop playing Italians. He's not good at it, and I'm like, how do you watch this movie and not at least be like interested in his performance?
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
That's currently like the top review on Letterboxd, right? That like
is it?
Yeah, I think the top review on Letterboxd is something like Adam Driver, if you keep playing Italians, you will be arrested or something dumb like that. Like,
oh, okay. I maybe that's where I saw it, but I know there's certain critical minds out there who this is just me being petty, but they loved Babylon, and they were like, what a disaster. And I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life?
Not to throw my Italian privilege around, but like Italians are just like that. Like he's very Italian. What the fuck? But the guy can't have fun. What, we're not allowed to party anymore? Like he's I don't know. He's got such an Italian walk in this movie too, which is the best part of his performance. He's so good at walking in this movie.
I love his walk in this movie.
I know. It's like it's amazing. And so I totally don't know. I'm looking at the best actor nominations right now. And it's a pretty good year, right? Like for best
Mm-hmm.
actor.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Rustin, so I don't know Coleman Domingo's performance, right? Like that's the one.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I've heard it's very good.
yeah. But
And he's always terrific.
and I'm a defender of Bradley Cooper's Maestro, so like I feel like people would be like, get rid of Maestro, put in Ferrari, right? I feel like that would
Mm-hmm.
be, but it's a pretty stacked year. In terms of supporting actress, which I feel like Penelope Cruz would get the supporting actress nomination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name names, but there's a few you could cut.
Oh, okay. Hang on. I wanna know what you're talking shit about. Let me check.
I mean, there's
Best
people I
supporting.
very much respect in that category that I also feel like, let's maybe we've nominated them enough. Is I'll say about one of them.
I would agree with you. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that one is it's a little light, but there's two great choices in there,
There are,
and they're the ones people are talking about. So
Yeah, which means they'll probably split the vote, and then some other bullshit will win.
yeah. I really loved Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. I think obviously she's gonna win, and then America Ferrara. I've always loved her, and I thought she was very good in Barbie. And people are weird about that in ways I think she even didn't anticipate. So maybe chill out there. Yeah, you could easily slot in Penelope Cruz.
Yeah, you could find room for Penelope Cruz on that list. Is all I'll say. But
what's Naiad? Anyways,
yeah,
yeah, that is absurd. That she wasn't nominated. And Neon, the distribution company for this, is actually pretty good at getting awards attention. So I'm actually really surprised by this.
Neon distributed Parasite, right? Like,
yeah.
It felt like I'll say this: like Neon's usually really good at this. It felt like they kind of fumbled the Ferrari release, like at the end, right? Like
a little bit, yeah.
It felt like it had momentum, and then it kind of just came out, and then no one saw it, right? Like there was like a moment where it had the momentum, and for whatever reason, it got kind of boxed out by whatever else we were discussing at the time. But just before I forget, I watched Naiad, and then the Academy Awards. And then the Academy Awards were announced, the nominations, and I saw Annette Bening and Naiad, and I was like, "The fuck is Naiad?" I had seen the movie and forgot about it, so I'm sure Diane Naiad was a lovely woman. Or
wasn't she a liar?
Oh, was she? Is that the story?
Yeah. She lied about doing that swim?
Oh. Oh my god, the integrity of the film Naiad has been called into question. How can I respect a film ever again knowing that Naiad
I'm not gonna lie. After I saw like the nominations for Naiad, I hadn't seen it. But I was like, oh, this is one of those joke tweets going around where like they're tossing a fake movie. I thought that for like a full 24 hours.
Wow. Yeah, it does feel like the type of movie where like it would be like, why is this movie nominated? And then it's like, oh, it's produced by Harvey Weinstein. Like that's what it used to be, right? Like,
yeah.
Why is The Artist nominated for Best Picture? Why did The Artist win Best Picture? Oh, because Harvey Weinstein produced it. Like that's what it used to be. Yeah. Very strange year. You know what people aren't talking about enough, in my opinion? That Killers of the Flower Moon did not get a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination.
Oh yeah, that is psychotic.
That is kind of crazy. Because it would have also been a way to give Marty a very easy second Oscar without having Killers of the Flower Moon sweep. Because he has a screenplay credit on that movie. So
yeah, what the fuck?
So I that's probably their way of just being like, we gotta make sure we give it to Nolan this time. We didn't nominate Dark Knight in 2008, and it broke everyone's brain.
Yeah,
but I feel bad if Anatomy of a Fall like somehow won like Best Director or something. People are gonna freak the fuck out.
Even though I hear that movie's actually like really good.
No, it's great, but I'm talking about like everyone's kind of right now being like, it's Nolan's year, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the attitude now that Barbie isn't gonna get everything, although Barbie might still
Hmm.
win. But it's if so, like if it doesn't win, people are gonna freak the fuck out. Like when that guy was all upset Joker didn't win Best Picture.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. And by
I wonder
interesting, I mean stupid.
I wonder how that guy's doing.
Oh, I'm sure he's completely normal now.
Do you ever wonder what it's like to be in people like that's heads like 24/7?
No, I'm too locked in, like Enzo Ferrari.
Yeah.
I'm too locked into the
Are you
drive.
are you telling me that guy doesn't compartmentalize parts of his life?
Yeah, yeah. When I get onto this podcast, I get on it to win.
Yeah, that's why this podcast does so well.
Yes, exactly.
That's why he won like 7 Webbies or whatever the fuck.
The podcaster deluded themselves.
There's the podcast. If we made podcaster movies yet?
I hope not. Well, I guess Kevin Smith kind of got that.
Oh yeah, with Tusk. You know what? The definitive
Yeah.
podcasting movie has already been made. Thank you, Kevin Smith.
That came out 10 years ago.
I know. He was ahead of the curve. Had he waited, it would have been a bigger hit.
Yeah. He should still do Moose Jaws, by the way. I'm
He's
completely dead fucking serious about that.
he is doing a different horror movie, right?
No. Do Moose Jaws first.
I do want to see Moose
It's Jaws, but with a moose.
Yeah, I do want to see it, but he's doing another horror movie right now, I believe. Called I think the 4:30 movie or something like that. Set at the movie theater he just bought. He now owns a movie theater.
Oh, okay. Well, good for him.
Yeah, I should go there. It's like not too far. Like it's like a 4-hour drive from me. Like if they ever showing something.
Oh,
really good
okay.
there, I could go. But and he's like there all the time apparently. So what else is?
All
Kevin
right.
Smith
Well,
gonna
good
do?
for him.
Um,
Yeah.
Did you know Tusk is kind of like responsible for A24?
Is it?
It's one of the first A24 released films, and when it was released, it was the biggest hit A24 had put out. And like it still didn't really make any money, but like
No, it only made $1.9 million against a $3 million budget.
I believe at the time there was something where it was like it kind of worked out for A24. Like
That's crazy.
yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Oh my
it's
God,
like,
that was one of their last ones. Or one of their first ones.
yeah, it's really early. Like they had done stuff before that, right? But like Tusk was kind of this weird one where like I believe it did well for them. Because I remember it being a news story, and it was the first time I remember people talking about A24. But yeah, so you know what? Now that I look at it, like I know A24's bit is like kind of become a meme. Goddamn, A24 like early on did have a hell of a run. Like I saw a lot of these movies and really liked them back in the day. Like so, and they were movies that just weren't getting made other places, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, they still put out good stuff. It's like they're just producing more now, and sometimes you don't hit as much as you like, but
yeah. Well, I mean,
they're a production company. Like, whatever.
I would argue that their hit and miss rate has never really changed. But now I think Everything Everywhere All at Once has now like broken them. So, in like look at them, you know.
I think online maybe, but like in the real world, like I think people still respond to them.
Like my boy Vox Akuma, he loves A24.
What did Vox Akuma think of Ferrari?
You know what? I don't know if he's seen it. He's also been like radio silent for like the past 2 months because of like everything. So.
Oh God, that's right.
I hope he's using the time to catch up the movies, and also hopefully he didn't do anything fucked up. But,
yeah. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Nothing. It seems to have. Everyone's just moved on. It's so strange. Like the whole company is just like, we're back to it.
Oh like, boy, I'm sure that'll work out.
Yeah. They've. It's. People are like just now. It's just one of those things where like I think all the people that were like harassing the people that work there have realized it's not working. So now they're just harassing all the fans and fan artists. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a very calm and chill world over there in VTuber land. it was one of those things where like I didn't know where I stood on like whose side I was on, but now I'm more on the like actual streamer side just based on how psychotic the people against them have been behaving in terms of like doxing people who are just fans, which is kind of crazy to me. But very healthy, normal world over there. Although I think a story just came out today about like basically, you know, whatever that company's name is, I talked about how they contract all their work out, right? Basically, and like they don't necessarily make good deals with the people who produce the music, and maybe those people aren't getting royalties that they would otherwise deserve in another line of work. But yeah, don't get involved with these companies, I guess is the lesson. Work for Enzo Ferrari, who never did anything wrong to any of his employees.
No, he was great. He was great. I do like the one like hard cut after like he pulls the new racer off the track because he couldn't get ahead of the other driver, and then he swaps in Jack O'Connell's character, who I really like as an actor. He just pops up once in a while now, but I think he's great. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll finish for you, whatever. And then the hard cut to everyone at the table where he's gonna just like scold them. Jack O'Connell now has like a neck brace on him.
I know, yeah. And that's his whole speech about basically like you have to want to die to do this.
Yeah.
He actually has a really good quote in there. We know it's our deadly passion, our what is it? Our something joy.
Our deadly passion, our terrible joy.
Our terrible joy. Which I'm not saying that's like the philosophy of the film. I'm just saying that Enzo understands the mentality of his drivers and knows how to tap into it, right? Like,
yeah,
that's really what the movie seems about. Is that Enzo is very good at like the dealing with the different people in his life in terms of giving them what they want and getting them to work for him. You know, it's. I'm not saying that's the movie's philosophy on like art or commerce or doing things. I just think that it's a look into Enzo being able to look at someone and being like, here's what they want, I can give it to them in order for it to benefit me. Because the underlying plot of this is his like pretend offer to Ford, right? Where it's like, there's that great scene with there's that amazing scene with the reporters where he's just like, you compared me to Saturn devouring his sons, get out. Like he just like throws out the reporters, and then he brings the one guy back there and he's like, look, I want you to report the story. Like, I want you to run the story where I'm entertaining a deal from Ford, and I categorically deny it. Like, and then the guy's like, if I do this, I want access to your private life. And he's like, you can, but you can't publish it until I say so. And it's like, okay, and he makes the deal. Like, it's all part of it, right? It's a weird like cult of personality type thing that he has going. I mean, there's literally the scenes in the church where they're like, if Jesus was around today, he'd be a metal worker. Like,
yeah, I know. I was gonna bring that up too.
It's a very fascinating, just like the type of people that can kind of get people to follow them on these sort of weird journeys. I mean, it's honestly someone like Jim Henson, you know, where you hear stories about that guy and like how he was able to convince people to work with fucking Muppets their whole life. Like he shouldn't have been able to do that, but he kind of had that ability. And this is a guy who just like built, like just was like, I can convince people to make a car slightly faster to just break themselves doing this. And it's very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there's also that whole aspect where he didn't build Modena, but he basically built himself to be the face of that community.
Yes.
To the point where, like, yeah, for the church thing too, it's like we thank, like the priest is saying, like, we thank you for like your faith and we thank you for your medal, and it's like, whoa, like everything in this community revolves around him, so everyone knows what his deal is, except they also don't. Like there's levels to it where, like, obviously, with Lara, the Penelope Cruz character doesn't know about the secret family, right? Where he's building up the life that he felt he lost when he lost his son and how he fell out of love with Lara, but also his face in the public is one of like being like impervious. Like he's like the guy who you cannot you can't cross, but you also can't like really defeat. Like he will win at the end of the day, but also he's like losing constantly because he can't keep up with his wins. Even like
100%.
even the people challenging him, he can't keep up with himself at like beating them, which is like this really like that's like levels to Michael Mann's like dichotomy psychology bullshit. Like that's just
and again, not to
so
say it's like
fascinating to me.
reflective of the artist or the filmmaking process, but like I was thinking of there's a good Sam Raimi quote I saw where I think he was talking about fucking Oz the Great and Powerful of all things. But like you were kind of asking like what attracted him to the material, and part of him he said like he gave this quote where he's like, I don't really feel like he's like after all these years I don't really feel like I'm a director. I feel like I'm an actor playing a director, right? And you think about that with Sam Raimi with like his whole like he puts on suits to like go to work, which is like a Hitchcock thing, right? That like he commands a sort of like the director is in charge type thing. There's so much in that psychologically trickles down to the rest of his work in his film, right? And there is sort of that with Enzo where he's playing this type of guy who is like, you know, he's one step ahead of everyone, he keeps everyone closed off, but he's also like, you know, he's constantly on the verge of bankruptcy. Like he doesn't have it nearly as together as other people think he does, and he's really just someone who's very good at making it up as he goes along, right? And is just willing to play it a lot closer to the chest than other people would, right? Like, you know, there's a great scene where he's like, if you cash this check before the sale is through, like it will destroy Ferrari, right? Like where he makes that deal with her, and it's like he's willing to get that close to the edge to pursue whatever it is he's pursuing.
There's the well, his son asked him to get the autograph from the new driver constantly throughout the film, right? And I just find that so fascinating that it's like at the end of the day, all these different things Ferrari tries to control, Enzo tries to control. There are some things you just that life is too chaotic and wild to ever really have a grasp on all these different avenues. So whether it's his son trying to like, you know, be his son, or his driver's trying to be perfect for him, there's just literally stuff in the road that's going to get in the way of that, and the outcomes are wildly unpredictable, and occasionally even dangerous. And that dude gets fucking just destroyed, and it's one of the most viscerally upsetting images I've ever seen on the big screen.
It's very I saw that when I saw it in the theater. It was just me and my father. We were the only two people in the theater, and we were both just kind of like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But I want to go back to the women of Ferrari really quickly, because there's Lena Lardi, Shailene Woodley, Laura Ferrari, Penelope Cruz, and then his mother, who is like old and bitter and is just kind of along for the ride and very funny at times too. She's like, she gets like a couple big laughs in the movie. I don't know this actress's name, but she's terrific.
Honestly, she is very good.
Yeah, I think it's Daniela Piperno. Let me check really quick. I want to get this right because she fucking cried. Yeah, Daniela Piperno, who I'm not familiar with. If I've seen her in anything before, I don't remember. She's also an actual Italian, so you get one in the movie. But these three women in the film, I think they're such fascinating.
Are you telling me Penelope Cruz is an Italian?
I could have fooled me, right? They all have such different like avenues of life. Where like Daniela Piperno is just like or his mom is just so like she's so stuck in the rigid old ways. Like the woman has to like just follow the man and like do what the man says. Like it's just easier that way. Even though she's also like deeply unhappy. Like one of her first lines in the movie is like, you know, I'll tell you, the wrong son died because her other son died in the First World War.
No, possibly.
And that's how she like opens the movie.
Yeah, possibly the most Italian thing in this movie is what you're saying of her being like she is stuck to the old ways of like the traditional role of a woman, but she's gonna let you know for the rest of her life she's unhappy with it. Like she's still gonna do it, but you're gonna have to hear about how unhappy she is forever.
And so she's constantly in conflict with Lara, who is like kind of the one who's greasing the wheels for Ferrari Enzo to keep going, and also the company. Like literally, she's in charge of like the finances and the books and stuff like that. And
she does
she's the one who bears the emotional brunt of it.
Yeah, and she does the work that Enzo won't do. Like, she's always like, when the one driver dies early on, like, she handles like closing up the finances on that one, right? Like, which it's like Enzo wants to keep like a sort of emotional distance from all that, and she's like kind of left to clean it up, and it's one of the kind of fucked up things she's doing. And it's a weird thing of like, yes, she's still in service to him, but I think there's also that thing that happens, I think, between like younger and older generations, where the older generation resents the younger one for having more opportunities, essentially. Like, she has this chance to kind of rise out of it, Penelope Cruz's character. And then there's also the sniping about, like, he wanted more children, but you couldn't give it to him, which is fucked up. Like, it's really good. It's great stuff in terms of just film. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this movie about cars.
Yeah, I just want to wrap up on her and Shailene Woodley's characters too, because they never meet in the film. I do not know if they met in real life. I assume at some point that must have happened, but it's not essential to this narrative. Where Lara's introduction is just like devastating in the aftermath of, like, I described the beautiful opening with like the valley and the quiet house and the quiet drive away from like this perfect family home, and then you cut to like their home and it's just like dark, and like Penelope Cruz looks so tired, and she's like shooting a gun at the wall, which is like a very like, I think that's kind of almost like a trope even for like tough women characters. I think a lot of people like look at Goodfellas and like they see the scene with like her on the bed over Henry.
So you
and
name
like,
another
that's
Italian.
the thing.
You name another Italian film as an example. You name another Italian
yes.
film. Although she's Jewish in that scene, so. But
well, they couldn't reconcile their differences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Fucking.
But yeah, like we're ultimately pro-Italian for the most part. Got to do something about that governor, though. Anyways, but no, I just it's such an effective way of communicating like the differences between these worlds visually, and that's a shout out to Eric Messerschmidt, the cinematographer. We talked about how like this is a more like traditional Michael Mann movie, like in terms of like its direction, and like the talking scenes, the dialogue heavy scenes, they're always shot much more like classically, you know, like over the shoulder stuff or like shot reverse shot, never like boring or like uninteresting. But like I guess just after, you know, we mentioned like the run from like Miami Vice to Black Hat, which are just like the coverage in those dialogue scenes is like fucking insane sometimes. I'm like, who even thinks to shoot that and why is it working for me? This one is like a normal movie when people are talking, but when they hit the cars and the racetracks, that's when it's like, all right, let's shoot in like a 21 millimeter hanging off the side of the car. Let's get right close to the wheel. Let's fucking like, you're in it. And that's when his digital experimentation starts getting like crazy again.
So, while we're on Eric,
it's genius.
Messerschmidt, he's returning to this retrospective from Mank. He was the cinematographer. He won the Academy Award for Mank.
Yeah.
He's recently worked on David Fincher's The Killer, and he worked on Mindhunter. So I guess what this movie really shows is that it depends on the director you work with in terms of showcasing your qualities as a cinematographer.
Boo! That is not a defense of Mank. I think this guy is very talented, though, and
no, he definitely
clearly
is.
A cinematographer down to try shit, which I really like.
Yeah, I wish he worked with a director who was willing to try more shit. But hey, do you think Mindhunter looks good as a show?
I think it looks fine. I think it looks good. Like, yeah, good. I don't want to say fine. It sounds half-assed, but like, it's good. It's a good-looking show.
Fine is the word I would use as well.
No. I don't know what else to bring up about Ferrari. I mean, I could obviously keep going all day,
I mean,
but I don't want
sound
to be
is
all day.
incredible. Sound is incredible in it.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, just because I keep forgetting, you keep talking about like the idealistic opening of this movie, like with him like kind of quietly leaving that lifeline. But there is like a dark element to that, which is like literally him like that is an example of him compartmentalizing everything. That he's like keeping the world so separate, right? That like he doesn't even want to disturb the silence of it. You know, there's definitely like a romantic angle to it of like he doesn't want to wake her, but we get there's a reason they show Shayla Woodley like after that waking up alone in bed, right? Like that's why that shot is like mixed in with everything. He wasn't just doing it out of the kindness of his heart. He's very much,
he doesn't want to disturb it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's even is like when there's the big scene when Penelope Cruz shows up and finds the toy car, it is a big like the two worlds colliding type moment, that these worlds that weren't supposed to overlap are now overlapping. But oh yeah, and like all right, so to bring back the sound design in this is incredible. It was amazing on the big screen. Seeing it in a good theater anyway. And I will say the one I don't know if anyone's made this connection, but did you think about when they're doing the racing scenes and there's the one shot where they're on the driver and like he'll kind of drive past the crowds really quickly and then in between the buildings and then past the crowds and like the cheering will cut in and out of the sound. Do you know the scene I'm talking about?
The final race.
Yeah, during that.
Okay.
When the sound, it's like the cheers will cut in and out, like it'll be like cheers and then silence, just like the sound of the car. It reminded me of The Shining, the famous scene with the kid on the bike where he'll ride the bike over the hardwood and then the carpet and then the hardwood and then the carpet. And I just like I thought it was like really effective in how it was used here. So,
you know what? It's like, so effective. I didn't even really notice that.
Oh, really? It really, it really left an impact on me. It kind of was like the weird, like, punctuation of just like, just like the intensity of this sort of driving. I mean, you get that when you're on the road, right? Like,
yeah.
Even just when I'm driving to like fucking a Walmart, but like,
when I'm driving to work in the morning, there's a stretch of the 605 freeway that is so smooth, and I get on to the 91 if people who want to hijack my car because it's a piece of shit. That's my road to work in the morning. There's a stretch on the 91 where so many trucks go over it. They're just never going to fix the potholes. And I feel it in the car all the time when I make that shift. When it's like, okay, this is the part they're never going to fix. It's like, it grinds a lot more. Where the 605 tends to be smoother. At least for that section of it that I'm on. But yeah, I noticed that difference. It's terrible. Someone please steal my car. It sucks.
When I cash in that insurance.
Yeah, I just want a new car. I don't. No, I actually don't now because now I'm gonna. I might cut that joke. That might be.
All right.
Yeah, that might be too much. Now Ferrari it's fucking great. I saw it first in Dolby. I got that early access showing because I got that A-list. It was really great. The sound was terrific there. I saw it in a normal theater after. The first movie of the year, by the way. And the sound was a little less good. So I don't know if it's an audio thing, like a mix thing, or if it was a theater thing.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was a theater thing.
Yeah, but I will say at the end of the movie, when he's talking to his son, he says, I wish you could have met Dino. When they walk on the gravel, it does get a little louder randomly. Now, I didn't catch it on the rewatch at home, so maybe it was the theater thing. But anyways, this is a great movie.
Yeah.
I will talk about another Michael Mann movie at some point. Hopefully not Heat 2 on this podcast, only because I don't want it to fail.
You don't want to... Well, you never know. I don't know what the... I feel like Michael Mann is one of those ones where, like, he's huge in film Twitter, and it just isn't connecting with the world beyond it, right? Like...
Yeah.
Just... he's not... He hasn't developed that sort of following outside of film Twitter. Even though he had one outside of it for the longest time, which is odd. But... It's not, we're not like rallying every time there's a new one, you know?
Yeah, it's just me.
Yeah, which, whatever. Like, we're not here to do the business of this industry, but...
No. I just want him to keep having opportunities. I don't give a shit about the money.
He, too, could be the one, though, that, like, gets him back. So that would be kind of cool. But, he's 81,
the interesting thing is that...
how much he's going to do more, but, keep on trucking. What were
The
you gonna
interesting
say?
thing is he didn't make like a god load of money either. Like it
No.
made its
Well,
money back, but it wasn't like the original Heat wasn't like a box office smash.
yeah, but if you
Everyone
read,
just
there's an
recognized it
interview.
as like the new best movie ever made.
That article about how much of a disaster filming Miami Vice was is a window into where the industry was at the time, because I think it was the head of Universal, because they were like, because that movie, it kind of bombed at the box office, right? Like it didn't really make money.
hmm
But the head of Universal was like, it's always worth taking a risk on Michael Mann because he does so well on home video and cable. It was like every Michael Mann movie has turned a profit at this point because they do so well on home video and cable. And that was where the industry was in 2006. I don't think that really exists anymore, and I think the fact that it has kind of gone away maybe explains the slowdown in output that Michael Mann has had, where
hmm
there was a huge gap between Black Hat and Ferrari. But yeah, I think that was more like that. That used to be the thing, is that he was a much more very similar to John Carpenter, where he just did better on home video for whatever reason than in theaters. Um, and unfortunately, will probably be one of those guys that just never gets an Oscar in his career, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's that's just not going to happen. But you look at Michael Mann, like I don't think any of his movies were ever like huge box office draws, right? Like
No.
Collateral's probably the biggest one.
Yeah,
$65 million
yeah.
made, 220 million. Like,
Yeah.
but that's about it. Yeah, I mean, Last of the Mohicans is probably the other big one, but yeah,
Mhm.
wasn't really never like a box office guy. So I mean, there's entirely a chance that we could probably cheat and be like, Heat 2 made money, but it didn't make $500 million, so technically it's a failed blockbuster.
I'll
If
fucking
we,
take it.
yeah, why not? I mean, we could straight up just do Heat in that it's not an Oscar winning movie, right? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
we could just do that.
Jesus
I don't know.
Christ, tackling
Yeah.
Heat. That's like fucking that's a feat.
The
I
only
think
problem with doing
I need to
Heat-
undergo like a Michael Mann level like analysis and like research on
Yeah.
that movie. It'll take me like 3 years to research before we talk about it or something.
The only problem with Heat is that like everyone's covered it, right? That like what could we really
Yeah.
bring to the table on Heat?
Yeah.
But
But Black Hat,
Black Hat, on the other hand, yeah, I think we could bring something
Yeah.
too.
there might be something there.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I forgot to mention at the top of the episode, the movie that Ferrari beat in the poll that we ran for this retrospective was Patch Adams.
Patch Adams, which I would have loved to have done. A Tom Shadyac joint.
Well, Robin Williams. We never get the chance to talk about Robin Williams.
Yeah, I mean, we could arguably like find reasons to talk about Robin Williams, considering his career, with like floating with Oscar nominations multiple times. But Tom Shadyac is probably someone who we will talk about him and never speak of him again, unless we want to do Evan Almighty one of these days.
No, that's okay.
Because Evan Almighty famously was like the most expensive comedy ever made when it came out, and it bombed. If almost as if God was mocking the hubris of Evan Almighty. That movie had $175 million box office, budget, and it made $174.4 million at the box office, within $1 million of its budget.
That's so fucking funny.
And it didn't happen. Yeah. Have you seen Patch Adams? Just like throwing that out there.
I don't think I have. I know the image of Robin Williams in the doctor's outfit.
Yeah, with the nose, right? The red nose.
Yeah. And there's a bit in Community where Abed was hiring like impersonators. Like he was addicted to hiring impersonators, and then he hires one to do Patch Adams bits for some reason.
Well, do you want to hear? Do you have any idea what to expect from Patch Adams? Because we will.
Well, he's entertaining kids like that are gonna die, right?
But he's based on a real guy.
Oh my God! No, I did not know that.
Patch Adams is a real dude. I believe he's still alive, and it was kind of an advocate for like you got to treat a person. You got to treat the patients like mental, like at the same time as their physical stuff. Like if they feel better as a person, they will feel it'll help their health too, right? Like not just that, but like he believed that. And there's a lot of stuff we can talk about the real Patch Adams. But just to give you a hint at the movie, Roger Ebert gave Patch Adams 1.5 stars and wrote, Patch Adams made me want to spray the screen with Lysol. This movie is shameless. It's not merely a tearjerker. It extracts tears individually by liposuction without anesthetic. So I look forward to discussing Patch Adams one of these days.
Wow.
The real life Patch Adams also apparently hated the movie.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
there's
that too. We'll unfortunately, embarrassingly, we will probably talk when we do Patch Adams. It'll probably be longer than this episode, just because I have so much to say about that fucking movie.
All right. I mean, hey, sometimes a good movie speaks for itself, and that's why these episodes tend to be shorter. I
only feel bad just because, like, it's more just that Ferrari is so fresh. I haven't really had a chance to watch it over and over again. You know, I feel like if I had more time to watch it, I would find more to it. So,
well, I can quickly run down some responses because I asked people on Twitter for the first time for this retrospective, like, what did everyone think of Ferrari, and
but all your
why did they snub Penelope Cruz?
All your fucking friends are gonna like Ferrari, though.
Well, here at your tugboat captain said, you got to understand that America Ferrari gives that speech like 30 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Penelope Cruz wasn't nominated, which I'm not pitting queens against queens here. Sorry. Call Me Matt 88 said, I liked Ferrari, maybe not as much as some diehard manheads, but I walked out of theater confident that Cruz and the sound team would be nominated. It's one of the best performances of the year. Like, what are we doing here? At Rainy Night Intanen, terrific movie that feels like man telling his own life story through Ferrari, how it mixes up his usual workaholic angle by having our title character want to share that love with the people around him, but being unable to is what makes it for me. At Prince M2319, not his best work, but I really enjoyed it a lot. Emotionally warmer than expected and funnier too. I dug the paradoxical relationships that Enzo has with people, especially Lara.
So Italians are funny to this man.
Yes.
He finds Italians funny, huh?
Italians are hilarious.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, you guys have the gabagool. That's just an inherently funny word.
Yeah. Guma. But what was I gonna say? So far, no one has given an explanation as to why they think Penelope Cruz wasn't nominated.
Yeah, no. It's just
I have an explanation.
Racism.
Yes.
I don't know.
I was gonna say that racism. But I don't know. It is one of those where, like, I just feel like this movie, it came out, like, it hits theaters like this, like, wide release December 25th, right at the end of the year. Didn't have time to build momentum, and then the momentum didn't even really happen. So, like, It was just, and it is kind of one of those. I feel like if Adam Driver hadn't done House of Gucci before this, it would have been more of a legit discussion, right?
I think so too. Yeah.
I think that really, like, in a way, kind of hurt it. No offense to House of Gucci.
No, and I like House of Gucci. I've said this many a times, and I'll say it again. The difference between that movie and The Last Duel, because Ridley Scott did them both in the same, like, time frame. The Last Duel, he shot, and House of Gucci is covered. Like, in the footage, you see, like, he's thinking of very specific sequences in The Last Duel. And in House of Gucci, he's like, let's just let the people go crazy in the performances, which he does. And I think it ends up kind of suffering because of that, though. Not for the performances per se, just, like, the way he covers the actual dialogue and stuff like that. But yeah, the Ferrari kind of wipes the floor with Gucci. It kind of runs away with this lunch.
Gucci also, like, made like 3 times at the box office.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's why Ferrari finally got to happen, because of Gucci and Ford v Ferrari.
Yeah. I do think that's part of it. I really do think it was like it's Adam Driver of it all. Like it is one of the things where I'm really glad Adam Driver is throwing his weight around to get interesting movies produced, right? Like that he's in that spot where he can kind of do that more so than I think a lot of the other people that came out of Star Wars. Although I heard there's a Daisy Ridley movie coming out that's like supposed to be like she's supposed to be really good in it, so I'm looking forward to that, whatever it ends up being. Unfortunately she doesn't have like the producing weight that he has Yeah.
But I kind of hope she can get there because, like, no one dislikes her, you know?
No.
Like,
I mean,
we all recognize she's good.
The other difference is that, like, she was, like, basically an unknown when she did Force Awakens, right? Like, she'd done a little bit here and there, but was basically an unknown. And, I mean, she could totally fall into the, Mark Hamill realm, which, worked out well for Mark Hamill, but it did get in the way of more blossoming career. But she doesn't have the weight to, like, kind of be a producer. But hopefully, I would love to see it turn around because I love Daisy Ridley. Like, she's great and stuff. So
yeah, I say this with complete love and sincerity. I would love for her to be able to get, like, that producer weight, or, like, have her name basically get something greenlit. Because I would love to see her do something like 65, a movie I didn't think worked.
Yeah,
but I kind of love that it exists and that Adam Driver takes it super seriously, as seriously as any other performance.
Oh my god, Daisy Ridley fighting dinosaurs would be amazing.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I felt similarly about Kristen Stewart when she did Underwater, or whatever that movie was called. Where it's like Kristen Stewart should be fighting more monsters in movies. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm glad she's got this, like, sexy bodybuilder movie now. But, like,
no,
do that and fight monsters in the same movie.
You don't have to do one or the other. Like, she can do both, right? Like, but
she's multifaceted.
Yeah, I want to see her fight monsters. Like, I want to see her. I just want to see her fight weird Cthulhu-looking monster type things. But, yeah, that new movie's supposed to be really good. Apparently, Love Lies Bleeding.
Yeah,
I've heard good things. So
yeah, shout out to Beyond Fest, which was like, we're selling tickets, and then immediately had their website shut down because they never figured out how to fucking channel all this data into their website, so no one gets tickets to these things anymore. Sorry, I'm just venting about shit again. But
I think that's something Beyond Fest should have figured out by this point. I did not know.
You would think so.
Yeah, you
would think so.
Although doesn't, like, the Comic-Con website crash every year? Like, maybe they just never bother to figure it out.
Yeah, I just kind of, yeah, we kind of going by the skin of my teeth on that one. But that was Ferrari.
Yes,
there's only one more episode left to record for the retrospective.
One official. You never know what might happen.
One official. Yes, I think I do know what's going to happen, but we'll save that for later. What we are not going to save for later, and just going to tell you right now, is that our final official recording is of the 2017 film The Snowman.
Oh boy, what did The Snowman do?
Thelma Schoonmaker was brought in to save that movie.
A lot of people tried to save that movie. Goddamn, we'll have a lot to talk about. That beat Dr. Dolittle, right? The old one.
Yes.
Which that makes sense, honestly. But
honestly, I could throw that back into the failed blockbusters for next season. I won't, because we talked about what we're gonna do, but
we basically already planned the failed blockbuster season. We're not gonna do a bracket this time. We've already picked the movies. So
are we not? There's a lot of them.
We're doing all of them.
Okay, that's a lot, but okay.
I'm ready to we got, without spoiling things, we got like a few more of these to do. We got another kind of a special retrospective coming up. We're gonna do. And then we're going to jump right into Phil Blockbusters. And then we're going to do that shit through the fucking election. Because I need something to keep my mind off the state of the world.
You know what? That's fair.
And once you find out the theme of the Phil Blockbusters, which has a theme this year, it makes sense for this year specifically.
Yep. No, I didn't see it until right now, but I definitely see it now.
That's why you're the host of this podcast, Diego.
Yep, it's going great. It's all good. Everything's great. Goodbye, Jonathan Demme. Links down to our stuff in the description below. Matt, thanks for joining me again, as always.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's your fucking privilege to have me here. God damn it. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's our deadly passion, our terrible joy. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Oh, God, it kind of is. Oh, God. Oh, no. I'm gonna fucking drive this podcast off the road, Diego. God damn it.
I know.
You take that turn a little too quick.
we had to give another episode. I gave him one. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe because you might find something to do. Like, take care. We have been professionally unprofessional. Goodbye, Judy Foster and Naiad.
Oh God, goodbye.